Yeah, I know. Can I get through, please? Come on. Come on. Well, as you can see, the dogs are not bothered at all right now. It is 8 below plus wind chill. A little while ago, I got the snow blower out and did some snow blowing. I let the pigeons out and I opened up the doors on the big shed. And this blizzard affected pretty much most of the country. We were dealing with wind chills of 46 below, high winds, and blowing snow for the last few days. Today's first day it's calm and sunny, and it's going to warm up into the 20s this coming week. Like I said, it's still in the negatives. The birds are out here finally. And I just wanted to talk real quick about what all we did to get our birds through that weather. First of all, you got to acclimate your birds. You got to, obviously that's harder to do if you're down south and you're not used to this weather, but, excuse me, if you're using artificial heat at 20 degrees and then you get hit with something like this and your power goes out, well, if they're having artificial heat at 20 degrees and then you lose power at 10 below, them birds are going to have a real rough time of making it. The other thing is you got to adjust your rations. You got to use common sense in terms of body heat, bedding, and drafts. So you got to keep the draft off them. Here's how that shed's coming along. You got to watch how much moisture you have in the building with them. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm seeing with a lot of folks down south is, they're making comments of, oh, I'm out here 2-3 times a day putting fresh water in because the water keeps freezing up, and how are you guys keeping your water from freezing and all this? Well, liquid water ain't gonna do you any good in these temperatures. I actually rely on soaked feeds, canned assorted fruit, and snow for moisture. As far as adjusting my ration, the 2 days that were the worst of the storm, I literally fed straight whole corn and nothing else. That'll give them body heat more than anything, I feel. Then, oh, you want your belly rubbed? Huh? Then, like this big shed here, I've got plastic on the wire doors, but for the last 2 days I've actually had the solid doors shut, so everything's been inside, and there's about 1.5 feet of cornstalk bale in each of those pens for bedding. Them cornstalk bales, they actually do a lot to keep them warm. You see the cornstalk bales, they trap air, which traps heat, acts as insulation, separates them from the cold ground, And it also gives them something to keep busy in, because they'll be scratching around looking for ears of whole corn that's in there, as well as generating heat by that action. The other thing, keep in mind, is, like I said, keep your moisture down inside the pens. I don't put liquid water inside the pens with them. There's one pen that I had to, but that's because that pen doesn't have any outside runs. So other than that, you know, it's either I give them some snow or some soaked grains or something of that nature to keep them in the water. Because if you have excess moisture in your coop, that is basically what causes your frostbite. Now this last part is going to be a little controversial for some folks, and I'm going to explain it as best I can so that it makes sense to you. But I know when you're not used to that type of weather, you get worried about your birds. I mean, you care about them, they're on your mind. You're cold, you're wondering how they're doing. But here's the thing. The less you go out into their coop in this cold weather, the better they're gonna be, especially at night. And you might be scratching your head why that is. Well, I want you to think of it like this. The feed you put in your chicken is its heat source. The chicken's body is its furnace. Now, chicken coop is the house. If you're trying to keep your house warm in the middle of a cold spell, and you're out there swinging the door open every 5 minutes, you're going to go through a lot of fuel trying to keep that house warm. Well, a chicken is going to eat its food. It's going to need time to digest that food to produce heat. And then, collectively, those birds' bodies will heat their coop. But if you're out there every 2 or 3 hours, every time you open that door, you're sucking the heat out of that coop. So, go out there. I mean, it's fine to check and make sure the plastic hasn't blown down or the door hasn't drifted in or anything like that. But beyond that, get them their feed and leave them alone until it warms up. My dad told me about back in the old days, there was a blizzard. I forget the exact year. Older people know the exact one I'm talking about. But it was so bad in Nebraska that the National Guard was called in, and they were dropping hay bales to the cattle because there was so much snow and so bad of drifts that you couldn't physically get out to check your livestock. It just was not possible with the technology and the equipment they had at the time. Now, the chickens was, they actually dug down till they found the roof of the building, and they actually cut a hole in the roof, and every day they'd go out, they'd kick some snow in there, just a little bit, you know, not a huge amount, and they'd throw their feed down through that hole, and those birds survived. They'd cover up the hole when they'd leave, you know, but those birds survived because they had the food, they had the water, they weren't being hassled, and all that snow built up around their pen was actually acting as an insulator for them. So chickens are a lot more resilient than most people think. The biggest thing I run into as far as losing a bird is you've got too much moisture in the coop and it's cold. So not only are they cold, but they're cold and kind of wet in a way. You know, it's like being sweaty out in the cold. It's not a good thing. And the other thing is if they're somewhere where the wind is just beating on them, because that wind will suck the heat out of them faster than anything. It'll freeze them solid. I've seen some photos from this storm where guys out in Wyoming found deer and coyotes that looked like they froze in position while moving to try to get out of the storm. I'm not talking about they laid down or anything. I'm saying the coyote was walking, bracing itself against the wind, and eventually it took its final step and just stood there and froze. So keeping them out of the wind is one of the most helpful things. If you're going to use heat, you know, there's different options for heat. Heat lamps, a lot of folks talk bad about those. Biggest things with them is you got to make it so they're not going to get knocked down. They're not going to get unplugged. You're not going to get water on any exposed wire, which you shouldn't have anyway, or where the cord plugs in or anything like that. You don't want them getting wet there. And you don't want them to where they're so low that you're actually burning and drying out the feathers on the bird, or the bird could get startled, fly up and break the glass. Because when that glass is hot, it is very brittle, and then that hot glass falls on your bedding, and that's what can start your fire. So be safe out there. Whatever holidays you're celebrating this time of year, I hope they're on the positive side. I hope that they restore the beneficial things in life, in you. You know, gives you some hope. Helps you feel good. And bundle up. And take care of your animals, but make sure you apply a little common sense to it when you do. Thanks for watching.